the first NHL team to register a win in 2026, the Ottawa Senators. And the way that this game started and the way the first period went, I thought this was going to end up being a blowout for Washington, but this was a gutsy win, and the Sens rebounded from a horrible start, and they picked up a big 2 points today. So, Game 39 of the season was played on January 1st, 2026 against the Washington Capitals. It was an afternoon start. It was a 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern start time. So this is the second game of a 4-game homestand for the Sens. And fun fact, this is the first game to be played on the schedule in 2026. So there you go. So Washington is playing on a back-to-back. I did make a note of this, but I don't think this really matters that much anymore nowadays. But I mean, I guess it is noteworthy because the Sens were not playing on a back-to-back. So it's the same as their last game against Columbus, right? The Sens were not playing on a back-to-back. Columbus was playing on a back-to-back. So I'm like, this doesn't matter because Columbus, in the last game, that was maybe the Sens' worst game of the season. And a lot of players came out publicly and said, we were just not good enough. And I would agree with them. They did not look great in that last game. And it looked like that again early today in the first period. But again, they rebounded and they picked up a big 2 points. So this is the second meeting of the season between these two teams. The Sens dominated Washington back on October 25th. They won 7-1 in Washington, and I remember that game too. So the Capitals were looking to get some revenge today, and I thought they were going to get it at first, but they don't. So starting goaltenders were Levi Merlainen for the Sens and Logan Thompson for the Capitals. So this is the first time that Merlainen has started back-to-back games this season, so I definitely had my concerns. I think he can handle it, but, it's something he's not really used to, right? So I thought he looked pretty good today. So the Sens were 18, 15, and 5 coming into today. The Capitals were 21, 14, and 5 coming into today. And this is a big month for the Sens. They play 16 games this month, so basically a game every 2 days. So, of course, next month we have the Olympics. There's going to be a huge break for every team. But yeah, this is a big month for the Sens, and they start off on a solid win, a big note, and yeah, just I'll say it again. I had my concerns after the first period, but they turned it around and they ended up pulling out the win today. Alright, so let's go ahead and dive into the stats here and break down today's game. So the Sens win by a score of 4-3 against the Washington Capitals on home ice. So these two teams have very similar records. I mean, there's a lot of that in the league nowadays. So Washington is 21-15-5. The Sens are 19-15-5. So we go into the stats here, and it was a pretty even game. Shots 32-29 in favor of the Sens. Faceoffs were very close. The Sens have a slight edge, 50.9% compared to 49.1% for the Capitals. Power play. um, again, this team can be very confusing, very tricky to figure out sometimes. So Washington was 1 for 4 on their power play. The Sens were 0 for 4, and I thought for sure that this not scoring on the power play today was going to come back to haunt them. So again, there's a good side and a bad side of this. The good side is they kill off 3 out of 4, which is okay, I guess. It's not fantastic, but 75%, it's better than their average, right? So you like that, but then obviously you don't like the 0 for 4. So they definitely had a lot of opportunities to shoot the puck, but they passed it off, not just on the power play today, but yeah, I'll say it. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If you don't score on your power play, you better be scoring at even strength, and they did today. So, your power play, even if you don't score on it, it might not hurt you if you're scoring at 5-on-5, which they did. So penalty minutes were tied to 17 apiece. Hits were, this doesn't seem accurate at all, but 32-15 for Ottawa. That does not seem accurate at all. It felt like Washington had the bigger hits for sure, but that does not seem accurate. But that's what the site says. So Anyways, block shots. There were a lot of block shots today. 19 to 14 in favor of Washington. Giveaways 17 by the Sens, 9 by Washington, and takeaways were 6 to 5 in favor of the Sens. So definitely a bit of a sloppy one at times, but the Sens end up winning this one. So these two teams will not meet again for quite a while, not till March 18th, and that'll be in Washington. That'll be the third and final meeting between these two teams. So we'll go through my notes here. So the first period, before the puck is even dropped, Tkachuk and Wilson are jousting with each other. So I'm like, okay, this is good. It's kind of annoying in a way because it's like, okay, do this during the game, do this during the play, like when the play is going on, right? But it is good to see, though. There's some emotion because, again, the players came out publicly and they said last game against Columbus was not good. It was one of their worst games of the season, so this is good to see, right? Before the puck is even dropped, it's good to see some emotion, and especially by your captain. So we have a stoppage, 3:12 into the period. The shots are just 2-1 for Washington. No good chances for either team, so really not too much going on through the first few minutes. So Ovechkin would end up taking a high sticking penalty way behind the play. This is nowhere near the puck. So it's an early power play for Ottawa, and of course they did not score on the power play today. So they had a lot of shot attempts, but there's a lot of blocks by Washington and just pucks being deflected out of play. They do get one shot on that power play, but again, they don't score. But just Washington is doing a really good job at blocking shots. So then there was a horrendous giveaway by Zub, and this goes right to the Caps player in the slot. I didn't put down who the player was, but Merlainen had to make a heck of a save here. So yeah, that was a pretty terrible giveaway, but it didn't cost them, thankfully. And here I have in my notes, the Sens look very flat again, and they did in the first period. They did not look great in the first period at all. So Washington would get a couple of shots here that were both stopped, and this is just terrible coverage. There's no intensity or anything. So during that same play, Wilson would end up scoring here after like 3 attempts at the net. So it's like, okay, how many attempts are you going to give them, right? So Tom Wilson does score his 22nd of the season at the 8:13 mark of the first period, and Sordiff draws the assist there, and the Capitals go up 1-0 fairly early into the game, and it's kind of looking like the last game early on. Like there's nothing going on for the Sens. They look flat. There's no energy. There's nothing going on. And by the way, Tom Wilson, of course, was named to Team Canada. Little side note here, I might do a reaction video to the roster. I know I didn't do a prediction video for who I thought was going to be on the roster, but I might do a reaction. I have some opinions on it, but anyways, don't want to go off topic too much. So, again, this is just a very soft play by the Sens. Very soft, just bad coverage, and the Capitals do take advantage of that. So Zub would end up taking Protas down, and he would go crashing into the boards. This was a pretty scary play. Protas would be down for a while. He would end up getting up. He would stay in the game, thankfully, because you never want to see anyone get hurt. Doesn't matter who it is or what team it is. You never want to see that. But this would lead to a scrum between both the teams, and coming out of that, Washington would get a power play out of this. But this is a very ugly period for Zub because he takes down Protas here, and he made that brutal giveaway earlier in the period. So I'm like, my goodness, this is a rough go for him. So, yeah, coming out of that scrum, Zub would end up getting 2 minor penalties, and then Strome would get a penalty for slashing as well. So, again, still ends up being a power play for Washington. And at this point, the shots are now 10-2 for Washington, not even halfway through the period. So this was an ugly start by the Sens. Just it was not looking good at all. So Pinto would get a breakaway on the penalty kill, but Chychrun, former Sen, he would make a nice defensive play to get back and prevent a shot from even happening. So, you know, that could have been something there for the Sens, but it wasn't. So the Sens do kill this off, and then there was a huge hit by Sordiff on Shabbat as well. during that penalty, and possible head contact here. Chabot would end up getting a cut on his right cheek. He was okay though, he would stay in the game, but that was a huge hit. You don't usually see Chabot get hit hard like that. Um, but yeah, he was okay, thankfully. There was no penalty on that play, but it's questionable. But shortly after this is where I kind of started getting annoyed, to be honest. So shortly after that hit, Sordif was the one who delivered that hit. A heck of a period for Sordif, by the way. We would have a fight between Sordif and Batherson, of all people. Now, it was a spirited tilt. I don't know who got the win here. Take your pick, but there's two ways you can look at this. You can look at this and be like, okay, like I applaud Batherson for stepping up and dropping the gloves, but at the same time, it shouldn't be him doing it. You know what I mean? It's depends how you look at it. But it is good to see some emotion because again, the team still looks pretty flat to this point. So I guess maybe it ended up helping out the team in the long run. But yeah, I don't have the stat on this, but I would not be surprised if that's Batherson's first career fight. Uh, yeah, that was just crazy. But again, good to see. But I don't think it should be him dropping the gloves. But yeah, there you go. We had a fight. So again, sort of has a fight and an assist in this first period. So I'm like, my goodness, all he needs now is a goal for the Gordie Howe hat trick. So Jensen would end up taking a high sticking penalty back to the penalty kill for the Sens again. So then Stützle, this is where I start getting annoyed even more. So Stützle would make a huge hit on Leonard. So I'm like, okay, nice, this is good. You know, we're starting to see some emotion now. So Batherson drops the gloves, we have a fight, and then Stützle makes this huge hit on Leonard. So I'm like, okay, this is what we'd like to see. But then immediately after that, Washington would score on the power play, like immediately after that hit. So I'm like, yep, this is what the team does, right? They do something to get your hopes up, and then they do something stupid right after that. Or they give up a goal or something. In this case, they give up a goal. So Dylan Strome would end up scoring on the power play at the 18:59 mark, so it was a late one from Leonard and Chychrun, and Washington goes up 2-0. And this is an awful period for the Sens. The shots were 16-6 for Washington in that first period, so it wasn't looking good. So I'm like, this is going to be a long day for the Sens, man. Like, they looked flat. They started to show some emotion near the end of that period, which is good. But I'm like, the hitting and the fighting and all that, it's great, but you got to start getting some shots, right? That's how you win games. So we do roll on to the first period, and this was a much different story. It felt like I was watching a different team. So Nick Cousins would get called for cross-checking, and then he would actually trip up the Washington player right before that, so you could have called two different things here on this play. But it is back to the penalty kill again for the Sens. So I'm like, what the heck are we doing here, man? So they do kill it off. 7 minutes and 7 seconds into the period, we get a commercial break, and the shots are 3-2 in the period for Washington. So the Sens are allowing less, but there's still nothing going on in the offensive zone to this point. So we are, what is that, 27 minutes into the game, and the Sens have 9 shots. No, 8 shots. Yeah, 8 shots. Just there's nothing going on, right? So the Sens would gain the zone, and Sanderson would ring one off the crossbar, and then right after that, Jensen would get it to the net, and this goes in. It goes in. So Nick Jensen scoring his second goal of the season at the 7:42 mark of the second period. Sanderson and Pinto drawing the assist there, and they make it 2-1. And this is where it starts to feel like I'm watching a different team now. So McMichael would get called for slashing on Perron. This was also way behind the play. There was a lot of stuff going on behind the play tonight, I feel like. So the Sens go to the power play again. And then this power play does not last very long because Perron would end up tripping Protas. Protas, it was all over the place today, it felt like. So that kind of negates the power play. So we would play 4-on-4 for a little bit. Now, before that, on this delayed penalty, I don't know what happened here. Just a god-awful line change by the Sens, and Washington would nearly get a 3-on-0. I don't know what happened here. Thankfully, the pass up the ice, it missed the player. I didn't put down who the player was, but like, what the heck's going on here? Like, we just we just scored to make it 2-1. Well, let's not do something stupid now, please. But that was very close to being a disaster. So then we would play 4-on-4, and Washington would get a power play for about a minute. The Sens do kill it off. Not really too much going on that one. And then this was kind of weird. So we go to a commercial break, then they come back, and they show a puck falling out of the equipment of Merlainen. And we were trying to figure out, like the commentators, Jamie McLennan and Matt Cullen, they're trying to figure out like where the heck this puck came from. Like, how long has it been there? That's what I said too. I'm like, how long was that there? So I thought that was funny, but apparently it was from an Ovechkin shot not too long ago, like a shift or two ago. But yeah, I thought that was funny, so I made a note of that. So there was a shot that was stopped by Thompson, and then the rebound would go just wide of the post. It would just skip wide of the post, so that close to tying it, right? And then there was a scrum that would lead to a 4-on-4, so offsetting minors for both teams. And then Batherson would have a one-timer that would go off the post. So again, just that close to tying it, right? But then there was a point shot by the Sens, and this would be deflected by Greg, and this goes in. Bit of a fluky one here. It does go off a Washington player and then off Greg, but this does go in, and we have a tie game. It is 2-2. So really, Greg scores a late goal, 19:31 into the second period from Pinto and Amadio. That's a couple of assists for Pinto in the period. So we're tied up at 2. And this is a very strong period for the Sens. The shots were 15-7 in the second period for the Sens, and it felt like I was watching two completely different teams. The Sens looked horrible in the first period, but then in the second period, they dominated. It's like, this is what makes this team really frustrating. It's like, just gotta find that consistency, right? But obviously at this point, I'm feeling good because they do tie it up. But again, never get your hopes up too much with this team. So we do roll on to the third period. So Pinto would take a big hit from Washington player. I didn't put down who it was, but he was okay there. That was a big hit. So then there was a centering pass from Halliday to Perron, and he would score off the post and in. Heck of a shot by Perron. And the Sens go up 3-2. 2:47 into the third period, David Perron scores his 8th of the season from Halliday and Nick Cousins. And that's 3 straight for the Sens. So I'm like, keep this going, guys. Keep it going. It feels like I'm watching a different team now. Don't know if I mentioned this as well, but the Greg goal was his 5th of the season, so I do want to make sure I mention that. Okay, so Dylan Cousins would make a strong play to the net. He doesn't score, but again, I feel like I say this like almost every game. Dylan Cousins is really good at just driving the net with the puck. He's a big body. I think he's like, what, 6'3", 6'4"? But he's very good at that, just driving the net with the puck. So then Washington would take a penalty for tripping. There was a cross-crease pass that goes off a Washington player and then goes off the post on the power play. So that was almost a fluky one for the Sens there. So then right here, the puck would get stopped under the pad of Thompson, and Pinto would end up coming in, and he would push it across the goal line. This does go in, but it does get waved off immediately. Now, I couldn't even tell what the heck happened initially because I don't know what the heck was going on today with the game. I don't know if it was just my TV or what it was, but it was very glitchy. Like, it was flashing black a lot of the time. So, of course, right when this happened, it flashed, so I kind of missed what happened. But then when they showed the replay, I was like, yeah, that's the right call. I mean, the puck was under the pad of Thompson, and then Pinto comes in, he pushes it with his stick. You can't do that, right? So it is the right call, and Ottawa does not challenge this, and I do think that's the right decision, because they probably would have been shorthanded after that. So it's the right call, and we do stay 3-2. So I have in my notes here the Sens. They look like a completely different team since the end of the first period. So I don't know. just it's the consistency again, right? That's what makes this so frustrating. But you like the fact that they're playing with some intensity and some energy now. So now Ottawa has a couple of chances here where they could shoot, but they pass it. They're overpassing it too much, and I'm just in my mind I'm thinking, are they trying to let the Capitals back into it? Because it kind of looked like it at this point, because they don't want to shoot. So then Beauvillier would get called for slashing, so Sens go back to the power play again. Kachuk would get robbed on one play, cross crease, and he has a good look there. He gets absolutely stoned there by Thompson. So we are 14 minutes into the period, and the shots are 9-1 for Ottawa. 14 minutes into the period. Washington is not doing anything at all. But in my notes here, I have don't let Washington shoot, or it's probably going to go in. Guess what happens? Protas gets a shot from the slot, and it goes in. Yeah, like sometimes you just know, right? It's just, we've seen this before, where the Sens dominate and then their opponent gets one chance and it goes in. I mean, this happens against, like, you know, this can happen to any team. But, yeah, that would tie the game. And even though the Sens are dominating, I'm like, again, this is just the negative side of me. Don't mind this, but I'm like, are they going to blow this now? But anyways, Protas would score at the 15:53 mark from Sordiff and Wilson, and this would tie the game at 3. So I'm like, they're gonna blow it, aren't they? But they don't. So the Sens would gain the zone, and Chabot would give it off to Zetterlund, and he would score. I yelled pretty loudly when this went in. Not gonna lie. So Zetterlund scores his 10th of the season at the 17:38 mark from Chabot and Stützle. Happened again. It happened again. So Stützle now, that extends his point streak to 11 games. I believe his career high is 14 games. They showed this during the broadcast, but yeah, that's you love to see this because like I remember watching this team for years and they would just crumble when stuff like that happened, but they persevered, they came back and they would score to make it 4-3 and we are late in the game too. So the Sens go up 4-3 and we have a little over 2 minutes left to play. So the Capitals do pull Thompson with about 2 minutes left in the period. Greg would go for the empty net and he would miss it. This drives me crazy, dude. Like just he was like a step away from center ice. Just take one more stride and then dump it in. But he dumps it in from his own side of center, so it goes for icing. And uh, then Sanderson would also, he wasn't really going for the empty net here. He would just clear it out. He would ice it, which I guess is fine. So Washington would get one good chance. Merillinen was down and out, and they basically had a wide open net, but it would go off the outside of the net. So I thought for sure that was going in, but it doesn't. It stays out. And 4-3 ends up being your final. And the shots in the third period were 11-6 for the Sens. So in the second and third period combined, the Sens outshoot the Capitals 26-13. So just a complete turnaround from the first period. That first period was ugly, to say the least, but man, I applaud this team for just, not completely falling apart and bouncing back. So, going into the 3 stars of the game, the first star of the game was Chabot. He had 1 assist. He assisted on the game winner, of course. Second star of the game was Pinto. He had 2 assists. And the third star of the game was Zetterlund. He had the game-winning goal. I think he maybe should have been the first star of the game, but whatever. I'm not going to complain about it too much. So, we will go into the box score here for the Sens. And looking at the forwards, a lot of players had a point today, actually. So Pinto had 2 assists. Stützle, Nick Cousins, Amadio, and Halliday all had 1 assist. And then Greg, Perron, and Zetterlund all had a goal each. And then on the defense, we got Chabot and Sanderson with 1 assist. Jensen also had a goal there. And then for the plus minus, Clevin was -1. And then Jensen and Shabbat were +2. Sanderson was +1. And then on the forwards, we've got, let's see, Batherson was -1. And then a lot of guys were +1 today. So Pinto, Zetterlund, Amadio, Giroux, Perron, Gregg, and Halliday were all +1. Everyone else was even. And leading the forwards in ice time was Stützle with 21-23. And leading the defense in ice time was Sanderson with 25-44. And leading defense in shots was Sanderson and Jensen with 2 each. Leading the forwards in shots was Perron with 5. And then blocks, a lot of blocks here for the forwards. So Tkachuk, Stützle, Zetterlund, Nick Cousins, Dylan Cousins, and Halliday all had 1. And then for the defense, Sanderson led the defense with 3. And then for hits, Clevin had the most hits for defensemen with 4. And then for forwards, Stützle and Perron actually had the most with 4. So there is that, and Merlainen stops 26 out of 29 for an .897 save percentage. Almost 900, not quite, so close. But, yeah, this was a big win, man. I mean, they needed this. Like I'm not going to say it's a must win, but we all know how close the standings are. Like, I'm going to pull up the standings right now for the division. This division is beyond tight. So right now there are 9 points separating every team in the Atlantic Division. So it's a big 2 points. So the Sens are now 7th in the wild card, but they're 3 points out of a playoff spot. So again, it's still very close. Nobody in the East is out of it by any means. And yeah, it's a big win, man. So they had a 3-game losing streak coming into today, and outside of that, they've still been playing pretty well, right? 6-3-1 in their last 10, and yeah, they still got a plus goal differential, so that's good to see. And yeah, the only thing I can complain about today, a couple of things, I guess. So that you hate to see the power play go 0 for 4, of course, and that first period was just awful. But it's just a matter of finding that consistency, right? But at the end of the day, the Sens do win. I was looking at the stats, by the way. The face-off percentage. Now it's saying, just flip those numbers around. It looks like the Sens were actually 49.1% and the Capitals were 50.9%. So they always tend to change up the stats on me afterwards, but not a big deal. I'm making sure, checking to see if anything else has changed. Doesn't look like it. Alright, anyways. So the Sens will be back at it again on Saturday, January 3rd against the Winnipeg Jets, and that team has been struggling big time lately. Like, how much are they struggling? Well, Winnipeg is currently dead last in the NHL. They're dead last. I don't know what's going on with that team. I don't know. They got Hellebuck back, but they are 15, 19, and 4. They have lost their last 2. They are 1, 6, and 3 in their last 10. So I don't know what's going on with that team, but it's a team that's struggling, and the Sens need to take advantage. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. This will be, I believe, I should know this, but I think that's the first meeting of the season between these two teams, right? I should know this. If it's not, then I'll correct myself in the next video, but yeah, so that's pretty much it for this one. A huge win for the Sens, and I thought they were going to completely just fall apart after that first period, but they bounced back, they showed some resilience, and I'll say it again, just got to find that consistency, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. So again, the Sens will be back at it on Saturday against the Jets, another home game, and that will be the third game of a 4-game homestand for the Sens. So we'll see how it goes, guys. So again, little side note here, I might do the prediction video the reaction video for Team Canada's roster for the Olympics. If I don't, then I don't, but yeah, do look out for a possible video coming out maybe today or tomorrow. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. A big win for the Sens, and they are the first NHL team to register a victory in 2026. So there you go. Alright guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you all so much for watching, and go Sens go.